Hi, welcome to the Small Shed. Today I want to find out where my desire to make things comes from. See you in a minute. Now, I'd always assumed that it was my father's influences that had driven the desire to make things all the while. He was a tool maker. He ran his own garage. He took up stone polishing and cutting when he was retired, and I learnt most of what I know from him, particularly with reference to DIY and cars. But it transpires, when I had a look through the family tree that he'd started, that there's probably another explanation. He spent some of his retirement working out the family tree on my mother's side of the family. Certainly beyond him going backwards, there was no great evidence of any makers, and I never knew my paternal grandfather at all. He was dead before I was born. So I had a look at the family tree the other day that we'd taken out of the house when Mum went into care, and it transpires, as with most of these things, that the family line, which is my mum's maiden name, all came from within a very small area. They all tended to live in villages before the Industrial Revolution and seldom go anywhere else. And Mum's family of lines were all from Treddington in Warwickshire, which is about an hour away from where I live. And looking through them, from my great-great-great-grandfather back to my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, they were all village blacksmiths. And there are a few brothers and sisters who would be great-great-great aunts and uncles, and who are also journeyman plumbers and glaziers and things like that. So it could well be that that's where some of this desire has come from. So today I just want to pop over to the village, have a walk around, have a look around the church, see if there's any evidence. I believe there is a monument come headstone for my great-great-great-grandfather there, and there are one or two other connections there. My brother has rubbed the brasses in the church in the 60s or 70s, so he had a picture of that brass rubbing on his wall in his house for years. Now, why, you might ask, are we doing it today, 7th of September? It's not a particularly significant day historically. Buddy Holly was born 1936, I think. One of my great heroes, Keith Moon, died 1978. But there's not really a lot goes on the 7th of September. Particularly more so when you look at the 7th of September 1831. And there are only two things I can find that are of any significance there. The Russians defeated the Poles in the Battle of Warsaw, which is of no great interest to me. But a little girl called Angelina Line completed her sampler, needlework sampler, on the 7th of September 1831. And she was 7 years old. And we've got that sampler in our house at the moment. It's been on the wall in the dining room for 10 years or so now, and it's a great source of interest. I mean, they're not worth a lot. They're probably worth, I don't know, £100 or so. But as far as family history and that is concerned, it's pretty much priceless. It's probably the oldest thing that exists within the family, and it's something I constantly look at. There's a few odd mistakes in it there, like you get with the people that start a sign at one end and get to the other end and can't quite fit the letters in. But there's also some very delicate and beautiful work on the border that's been stitched. Bearing in mind this was done by a 7-year-old girl, it's quite amazing. Now, Angelina was my great-great-great aunt, and again lived in Treddington, so that's part of the reason for going there as well, and that's the significance of doing it today. So we'll just head on over there and have a look and see what we can find. The village of Treddington itself is a typical rural, idyllic, picture postcard sort of settlement. I'm under no illusions that in the 17 and 1800s it would not have looked anything like this in terms of prettiness. I'm sure it would have been mud tracks and not quite so gentrified, but there is still a lot of character there. A lot of old buildings still remaining, mostly stone built, and the church is at the centre of the community with a group of properties all the way around it. Some fantastic old houses there, from dating back from 16 and 1700s. A bit of more recent Victorian and Edwardian brickwork type buildings, and later on still buildings from the 30s and 40s. But essentially it's still a typical, what you would imagine as a picture box British village, thatched cottages and all sorts. Just around the corner here is the charity school, which I'm guessing is where my great-great aunt Eliza Sarah used to teach. She was Angelina's sister, and again died young, 32, something like that, and moved on into the churchyard and found the monument to their brother William Lyne, my great-great-grandfather. That still exists. Looks like it could do with a stonemason to repair the granite a bit, but maybe there's a project there one day, I don't know. But that's great-great-granddad William Lyne's tomb and his wife, and it's again, I think, some indication of the importance of the blacksmith in the village, that there is a monument like that that's been put up. So I then went and had a wander into the church itself. Beautiful place, and there's a certain calmness about churches that when you go in it's serene, quiet, peaceful. Whether or not you're religious, there is a certain atmosphere in there. Immediately on the right as you went in there was the two brasses which are now on the wall that my brother rubbed and had pictures of in his walls for years. Richard Cassie, who is the priest in 1427, that's survived and has now been put on the wall to stop damage, further damage to it. The list of rectors on the wall is interesting. I notice that when I go back as far as I can to my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, 1740s, the vicar in 1729 was Humphrey Lloyd, which is our name now. So a bit of coincidence at work there that the name is there from my father's side of the family, even though there's no real connection. And then over in the corner I found the mother lode. There's a comment on the card below. It says this is the original spike which surmounted the spire and supported the weathercock. The blacksmith who made it cut off decorations and folded back layers of iron for the shaft for the ornament, and no welding was involved. That was made by my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. So here we are. I'm finally touching something that my great-great-great-great-grandfather made. Wow. Say that had more of an effect on me than I expected it would. I just thought I'd go and have a look around the church in the village, but to actually get that contact with ancestors is quite a different experience. And to actually touch something that my great-great-great-great-grandfather made probably 360 or 70 years ago